I am Brad Keelor. She is Shirley Tang. Next on Director's Cut, find out how to cook anything in your house on only a waffle iron.
Yeah, you know what it is. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah, you know what it is. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah, you know what it is.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Director's Cut. My name is Brad Keelor. I am the director of the Geo-Institute, and that is why we call the show Director's Cut. Every week, I get an unwitting GI member to sit down with me and answer 10 questions about themselves. As I like to say, some of them are professional, some of them are personal, all of them are fun. If you are not familiar with the Geo-Institute, maybe it's time you became so. We are a technical society that is part of the American Society of Civil Engineers. We have about 12,000 members, most of whom are geotechnical engineers, geologists, or both. Or maybe none, but most are both or one or the other. So this week, we are very excited to have with us from, I'm going to screw up the company name because I didn't practice it in advance, so you're going to have to say it, Shirley, after we start. But what I will add is that she's also the current chair of the Geo-Institute Pittsburgh chapter, one of our finest and most active local groups. It is Shirley Tang. Welcome, Shirley. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brad. It's good to be here.
And we will start where you will enumerate the name of your company in the following question. Describe your job in 45 seconds.
Yep, sure. So, my name is Shirley Tang. I'm a project engineer with American Geotechnical and Environmental Services, Inc., or AGES, Inc., located in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, so in the Pittsburgh area. And for my job, I do a bunch of different types of foundation design primarily. So we do shallow and deep foundations, all sorts of stuff with like spread footings or piles. And then I also do some slope spilly analysis along with that, roadway subgrade work, and then sprinkle in some drilling inspection every once in a while, but pretty much my role.
It's good to have sprinkles, though. I think every job has to have sprinkles, otherwise it gets boring.
Yeah, some variety.
So your first bonus question maybe should be this. Since you said slope stability, what should we know about the Route 30 slide from a couple of years ago?
Oh, man.
Anything new?
I don't know if I'm at liberty to say too much. You might have to ask. I know Brian Heinzel at Gannett Fleming was the one who gave that talk for us. I do know there was a lot of, obviously on top of the technical aspects of it, he had to do a lot in terms of the publicity and communicating with the public, dealing with, handling the situation of people who were displaced. But yeah, as far as technical stuff, unfortunately, I don't know if I have a lot to add to
That was a very, very diplomatic answer. I hope the rest are not so diplomatic because we need info, Shirley. So next we'll go with the fun question because you won't have to hold back on this one.
Yeah.
What is the first concert you ever attended?
So the first concert I ever attended, it would have been in high school. It was Kid Cudi. He had I think he'd been doing stuff for a while, but it was like his Man on the Moon series that he did a couple albums of. So he was touring and he came to Canandaigua, New York. I think it's called CMAC is the venue, one of those like amphitheater type things, or outdoor and indoor type. But it was fun. Yeah, it was a lot. It was like cool for his concert there with friends. And I remember we had gotten like lawn seats because they were the cheapest and we were like, this will be fine. But then of course it started like raining and storming halfway through. And we were like, that, this kind of stinks, but it's still fine. And then at one point, Kid Cudi, he was like, everyone outside, come on in. And so like, everyone just like ran in at the same time. I think the security might not have enjoyed that much, but for us, we were like, oh, this is so cool. We get to, be inside, be closer to the action and not be in the rain.
That's a pretty legit first concert, though. Yeah. Not a lot of people have such a cool answer as that. And for those viewers who have no idea who Kid Cudi is, For those of you who want to Google it, it's spelled C-U-D-I.
Yeah.
Shirley, can you tell the people a little bit more about Kid?
Oh man, if
It
only
doesn't
I
have
knew
to be anything
this.
extensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's from New York. Maybe I should have checked that, but like, I believe he's from New York, and I think some of his biggest songs are probably like Day and Night, Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah, he's got a lot of good albums. I think he's been around probably since the late 2000s, as far as like being kind of like prominent in that scene, like the music scene. But no, I mean, he's a really great artist, and he's got a lot of really good content. So if anyone's interested, check him out.
Go check it out.
Yes.
So now a quasi-serious one, I guess, because everything on Director's Cut is only quasi-serious. That's as serious as we ever get around here.
Great.
You spent a lot of time volunteering with the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers. What was rewarding about that? What was challenging about it? And I guess other as well, if you have anything else to add about that experience.
Oh man, I feel like I could go on forever about this, although I'll try to keep it short. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was cool because it was a very young organization. I guess it still is, relatively speaking, right now. But at the time, I was a sophomore in college when I started the chapter at Pitt, base chapter at Pitt, and I think like, so that was around 2012, and then I want to say the first student chapter of the org had only come around in 2008. So it was like really, it was kind of in its growth period. So in that sense, a lot of us could kind of like make what we wanted out of it. So there was a lot of freedom, which was both challenging and rewarding. It's like how to figure out what to do. But in the sense you can do, whatever you think is best. So that was a really good, like leadership experience for me. I'd never really been, as far as like student leadership goes, I hadn't done much at that point. So starting a whole organization and Student Org and, growing that was really cool. And then after that, I went on to volunteer nationally. So I spent probably about 6 or 7 years doing that, mainly focusing on, I was in the collegiate committee. So that was one that oversaw the chapters in the Northeast region for us. And yeah, it was just a great community. It was, the focus was a lot on like the community as well as the professional development. So like I got a lot of great skills like from that. I would say if you'd asked me before SACE if I would ever imagine myself being like the regional manager of a Northeast region of anything, I'd be like, no way ever. But in some ways it was also really cool because it was mainly virtual because we were all spread out across, like, New York, PA, over to like Jersey, Delaware. And so all the volunteer work was done online. And so I feel like maybe that was good practice for now. I kind of got, I got practice like setting up Zoom calls and like prepping, everything and like sending out calls and stuff. So it was great overall experience. And then as the org grew, I was able to meet some prominent Asian American figures that like I don't think I would have gotten a chance to meet otherwise. Like Jane Hun, she's an author. She wrote Breaking the Bamboo Ceiling, and we were able to have her speak for SACE. So I was able to talk to her there, and that was super cool. Yeah, and nerdy, I guess, kind of a nerdy fact, but my my partner, I actually met him through SACE. So if you need a nerdy reason to have met your partner, we met through an engineering organization.
That's very good. That's
Yeah.
one question I have about that. What was it like to be part of an interdisciplinary group like that? Because, a lot of people, I think, shy away from that kind of thing. If they're a civil engineer, they say, oh, I'm only going to be in these groups with civil engineers. If they're a biologist, they only join groups with biologists, and that's it. This was like probably 40 disciplines, right? What did you take away from that?
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of it, what I think worked well enough for SACE is that it was very young. So like a lot of it was, it was predominantly collegiate members. And so in that sense, I think a lot of college students are kind of used to mingling with other disciplines and stuff as well. It was difficult, I would say, to prepare maybe like technical topics to talk about. Cause yeah, you had a range from, like I was civil, but like you had a really large portion that was pre-med or chem. And so like a lot of times, technical stuff would have to be, like really well planned out. And I think the org itself was focused a lot more on probably the professional development skills and the community building. And by doing that, it kind of built up the membership to be familiar with each other first, and then it had enough of a membership to support all those different pockets of technical content. That makes sense.
Very cool. So now we ask a lot of people a lot of questions. Thinking back on Director's Cut, you went to Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, for both your bachelor's and your master's degree. So we have to ask a couple of questions about that. And the first one, if anybody has ever been to the University of Pittsburgh, you arrive on campus and you notice this gigantic tower right in the center.
Yep.
It's hard to miss. That is called, of course, the Cathedral of Learning.
Mm-hmm.
Shirley, what is your fondest memory of the Cathedral of Learning?
So I would say my fondest memory comes from when I was a freshman, and like I didn't have many classes in the Cathedral of Learning, unfortunately. I think I had like one Spanish class there or something. But my friends and I would study there sometimes just because it seemed like a cool place to study, and there were a lot of spots. And we were on that main floor, and there were tours coming through that day. So it was those groups that had like a prospective student as well as their parents and stuff, and they were talking about the building and like campus and stuff. And so they passed the table where my friend and I were studying, and the tour guide was like, and here you can see like a couple of Pitt students hard at work studying. And then all the parents, like they had been taking pictures of the building because of course it's like a very nice, the inside's a beautiful building. And then they started taking pictures of us studying. And we were just like we were like, should we notice or like pretend we're not noticing? And tried playing it cool. Not sure if that, it worked out, but.
So what's your hope for those photos? Because I think if it were me, I would want those to be used to bully that parent's kids into working hard and to be like, look at this student here that was studying so hard.
Look how focused they are, even though I will say like my degree of focus when studying probably was lacking freshman year at least. But yeah, no, I always wonder, I'm like, maybe we like convince a parent that like this is the place. Or a student like, wow, look at this cool group of people studying. I want to go here.
And we talked about it a little before we started recording. The first time I went in one of the elevators in the cathedral, I was scared out of my mind.
Yeah.
They are old and they are really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did anything ever happen to you in one of those elevators?
No, I mean, fortunately, I never got stuck. I do remember a few times when like, you went up and like before you kind of realize how fast it's going to, take you 20 floors and however long. But like my ears would pop and I'd kind of like be reminded of how fast I'm moving vertically up or down. I know the last time I went in, I think I saw a sign for like an elevator modernization project, but like I didn't really follow up on those details. But I feel like
you didn't try to intervene to stop it just to maintain the classic elevator.
Yeah, like it's part of the charm of the building. It's got to stay. But, yeah.
So we'll ask one more question about this. And when I wrote this question, I really meant the university, but you interpreted it differently. So you have a couple of different answers for this one, which is fantastic. I said, if people visit Pitt, where is the one place they must go? And I had must in all capital letters. So you've got one for on campus and one for the city of Pittsburgh. Tell everyone where they have to go.
I feel like they're a bit cliche. I feel like the Pitt one, it kind of draws from, Kathy already, but like I always found the nationality rooms to be very cool. I know that's not like one specific place, but a group of them, but just the nationality rooms, they're classrooms built to imitate the style of like a different country's classrooms. And so to go into like a Polish one, it has like a certain charm to it that like it's designed by someone in Poland and it's supposed to represent like a Polish classroom. You have a Japanese classroom, a South African classroom, and like there's a bunch of different types. And I always thought it was really interesting just to see, like kind of have a glimpse into that. And I know like for the holidays during December, they would kind of decorate them for the holidays too. So it was like extra special. for
And
that.
those are in the ground floor of the Cathedral of Learning. So while you are going on a harrowing elevator ride, you can go see the nationality rooms as well.
Right. And I think I think they add a few each year. Like I think even the last few years they added maybe like a Filipino room. So I think now they're on the first or the ground and the third floor.
Whoa.
Expanded, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
Okay, so your City of Pittsburgh one, what's your spot?
Yeah, so this one I feel like is kind of like probably the first one that would come up on Google anyway. But I mean, for me, I always think that, the Duquesne Incline as well as going up to the Mount Washington view is like the classic. You see everything, you get to ride the cool like trolley car up, and you just get like a sense of the city. You can see all the bridges, you can see like the parks and like the sporting venues and stuff like that. So like for me, I feel like that's one spot to really like see it all. And yep.
Cliche or not, still a good answer and
Yeah.
still something everybody should endeavor to do at some point when they visit Pittsburgh. The other question that we ask every single guest on this show is as follows. How did you first get involved in ASCE and GI?
Mm-hmm. So I admittedly, I didn't do too much with ASCE in college. Like I was a member and I went to some general body meetings, but I never got like too into it. I think I was, I did a lot of stuff with SACE and SWE at the time, like some of the other engineering orgs. And so, yeah, like with ASCE, I was more of a fringe person. But then once I started working at Ages, there were already like I think there was like a line of people at Ages who had been pretty heavily involved in GI Pittsburgh. A few past chairs, a few past other board members, as well as like current board members. So there was one, Vishal, he kind of encouraged a bunch of us who were kind of relatively new at the time as well, to give it a shot, join as an at-large board member for the Pittsburgh chapter and just kind of see what was going on. So like Ages was already encouraging us to go to the events already. So I kind of had an idea of what, this org, or at least this chapter did. And then I thought it was a really good chance to, get into, more into the workings of it and be involved and like help plan stuff. So it was also fun to kind of sit at the tables and like check people in because it was an easy way for me to like start recognizing people's names.
Yeah.
So that was my, I guess, story. It's not super exciting.
But what has your experience been like on the board then of the chapter? Because by the time you're chair, how many years have you been on the board?
Oh, so for me, like how many did I do? So there was an opening my first year on, so I actually, became the secretary my first year, and then treasurer. So this was my fourth. So I did about 4 years on the board, including like this year's chair, and I feel like that was a really good, it was a good appropriate amount of time to, see what, the structure is already, but also have enough to go off of to, continue executing on stuff and, making changes if, there are improvements to be made. But overall, yeah, it's just been a really nice way to meet people. The Pittsburgh chapter, I feel, is, super engaged. Everyone's super friendly, and there's a great network of people. And there's a good relationship between Pittsburgh GI and the other geologic organizations or geology organizations in Pittsburgh. So there's like the Pittsburgh Geologic Society and the Association of Environmental and Engineering Geologists, Pittsburgh chapter. So like we're able to collaborate there. Those relationships are already there, and yeah, it's just been a really nice way to meet people and contribute, back to the community.
That is fantastic. And we love the Pittsburgh chapter, as I said in the start here. You guys are one of our shining models. You guys do great work, and we're really appreciative of that. So in the open for this episode, I said that you were going to tell us how you can cook anything on a waffle iron.
Yeah.
How did you start cooking on a waffle iron? What's the craziest thing you've made? Tell us some waffle iron cooking stories.
Okay, yeah. So this kind of dates back again to high school, but it's kind of silly, but like I opened a checking account when I started working. So, I was like 14 or 15, and went to the bank, and I was like, I need a checking account. And they had that like free gift that they give people for opening. So that month it was a waffle iron. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I just pretty much like put it away, never really used it, like maybe once or twice. And then it wasn't until junior year in college when I moved off campus and could have a kitchen and stuff that my parents were like, you should take this waffle iron and like do stuff with it. So I think that day we had, we like me and my roommates moved in and we were like, oh, let's like make something random on the waffle iron. So we just like cracked an egg in, and then like my friend wanted to make cookies, so then we just like made cookies and like put that on there. And then we were like, I wonder what else we could do. And that was pretty much like where like the beginnings of it. And then for some reason I just got really into it, and I was like, any food I made, I was like, I wonder if I could do it in the waffle iron.
What was the biggest waffle iron cooking fail?
Oh man. What didn't? Oh, and in retrospect, this was pretty obvious, but I tried to make like some frozen ravioli in it, and so I just like took the frozen ones, stuck them on, closed it, and was like, maybe it'll work, and it didn't. They just ended up like kind of mushy and like all melted on top. That's the other thing with waffle iron, is that like I had to figure out some pretty good tricks to clean it because of all the fails. But it's worked out.
I mean, I would say so, especially if it was a free gift from a bank.
Yeah,
that's pretty solid.
Right. I was like, I have nothing to lose.
Are you still using the same waffle iron, or have you upgraded?
The one that I got originally, like that one, I think it passed on like my senior year of college. I still remember, like, I went to plug it in to make some eggs or something, and it like didn't light up anymore. And I was like, oh, like, thanks waffle iron. So I still have it. Like, I kind of kept it because I was too like emotionally attached to all the memories. But my sister was kind enough to replace it with like, she got me like a Belgian waffle iron, it's like the flippy ones. That was actually a pretty nice upgrade. Yeah, and then so that's the one I've been using the past few years, and I've accumulated a couple novelty ones. I have one that does ones in the shape of like sea animals. So I can do like dolphin waffles and stuff like that.
I am 100% certain you are the first person I've ever spoken to that has a novelty waffle iron.
Yeah.
But you see those in the store and you're like, I wonder who the market is for these things.
And I was like, it's me.
Now I know.
You only need one person. But yeah. So yeah, it's like, luckily with the ravioli thing, I was able to redeem it. I ended up just kind of trying it from scratch once, and that worked a lot better than the frozen one. So trial and error.
I'm pretty sure I'm never going to try to make raviolis in the waffle iron, though. Like, I feel very certain of that.
Yeah, some things don't. Some things are better unwaffled.
But that is fantastic. So we've got 3 questions left, and 2 are serious and 1 is fun. Well, 2 are professional and 1 is fun. What geotechnical issue that you work on in Western Pennsylvania is most unique to or most common in Western PA? Something that someone in other parts of the country might look at and say, whoa, that's a thing?
Yeah, like I guess I can't, I don't know how like particularly unique I guess it is for Western PA, but the one that I think of a lot that comes up that I don't know how much it needs to be considered everywhere else is like looking into like coal and like your mining history at your sites. Like right from the beginning, one of the first things you'll do for a job is like find your coal status report, try to figure out how deep it is there, if it's there, how deep it is, if it's mined. And so like, that comes into play, and then you have to work that into your drilling considerations. And then once you get into design, of course, if it's there, you need to make the appropriate considerations for that. If you're driving piles past it, like what are you going to do with that there? So I feel like that is probably the first thing that comes to mind for me for that. And yeah, like I know for Western PA, we've got a lot of historically a lot of coal mines. So that would probably be the first one that comes to mind.
So here's a wild bonus question that I didn't think of until just now. How big of a consideration for you guys are abandoned mine sites? Is this a major problem? I guess it would have to be, because you don't have any idea what people filled these things with 75 years ago or whenever they were abandoned. How do you guys deal with that?
Right. So I feel like, as far as my experience with it, there are like I've had a few instances where the report comes back where it's abandoned, or it's unknown, whether or not it's mined. And so with that, luckily I would say I'm fortunate enough that I don't think I've had to, like, once we do the drilling, it's come back with enough info that we're able to figure out how to best handle it. Like, if we think that there's an area that we've gotten to there's like voids or something, well, we can figure out if we need to go past that and just have the foundation, the pile, and deeper, and go past that into good quality rock, good quality strata. So I feel like that's, again, fortunately for me, I haven't had anything too complicated come up with that. And a lot of times we're able to just go beyond the questionable, potentially issued area and like figure it out from there.
That's pretty good, though. You're fortunate then, because I always feel like that part of the world, the geology is interesting, but a lot of the geology is interesting because of what humans have done to it in the last 175 years. It's
Right.
1857. Everything changed after that in Western PA. So I wanted to ask you this question. As somebody who's relatively early in your career, you have fresh eyes on this. We talked a little bit about working with people from other disciplines earlier.
Mhm.
Which disciplines outside of civil engineering do you think the geotech community would benefit the most from working with?
Yeah, I feel like it's like, of course there's, general idea of, like, as an engineer designing, like, for infrastructure, you need to know what's best for the community, or, consider what could be best for the community. So perhaps, like, with like urban planning disciplines, like, to understand what goes into that. I know that's a lot bigger nowadays. And then I guess this isn't necessarily a specific discipline I can point to, but I remember I saw a webinar a few months ago about the role or potential role of like geotechnical engineering in terms of like designing for climate change. And so with that, I was talking about, stuff like if you have an offshore set of like wind turbines, the foundation for that as well. Like, that's a bit more straightforward. But when it came to like geothermal technologies, or even like the adaptation of non-structural things for like anticipating climate change. So like, how are you going to design your slopes in certain places, or roadways and structures based on like the impacts of the climate. So I mean, that's a bit more of a broad thing than a specific discipline, but like, that to me, I feel like was like, when I saw that webinar, I was like, oh wow, I never thought of like thinking to that extent, like that geotech could play into that as well. Although of course everything plays into that. So yeah.
Well, and we hope everybody else realizes that too. Woe be to the discipline who thinks they don't have to worry about climate change.
Right.
So our final question, we always have to end on a fun note.
Yeah.
As we record this, it's about 95 degrees here in Virginia. It's very warm today. Summer is here. If you had to make an ultimate Summer of Shirley plan, what are your top 3 things that would be on the list?
So I feel like that this will, I guess, maybe hit a few different points. So I know, like, when we talked previously, like I mentioned, I was a big tennis fan. So like, one thing for me is like, I would love to go to a big tennis tournament. So like the French Open or something, somewhere like far away or something. I think at this point,
not just taking the train up to Flushing Meadows.
Right. It's like, of course, the U.S. Open is cool too, but like, if I could pick anything, I'd go to France or something. Like, that'd be cool. And I feel like at this point, I'm like eager to go places as well. So like, that'd probably be one thing, is like going to a big tennis tournament and geeking out over Roger Federer and stuff. So that'd be one. Second, this kind of goes back to the Waffle thing, but I feel like the idea of like having a bunch of being able to have a gathering eventually, and I always like the idea of having like a line of my waffle irons. I have 4, so like, it's not like I have a ton, but to kind of like grow. Like
That's
have a cookout.
3 more than most people have.
Yeah. And right, so yeah, I was just like, yeah, have like a cookout, but like force everyone to accept my waffles. I've done like burgers in them before too, so like I was like, I could make something work. And then the last one, and this is a bit more sappy, I guess, but I've always liked the idea of, so like a lot of my extended family is in China, and so I don't get to, see them that often. It's a long trip. And so I've always liked the idea of like, if someday a lot of them could come here and I could take them on like a road trip or some type of thing around the US, or maybe not the whole country, but hit some fun places and show them around. So yeah, that's a bit more of a sappy, sentimental type thing. But those would probably be 3 big. If I could pick anything, I would do that.
But that's pretty solid. I was trying to think of how those 3 things could all interweave, and I'm not sure they all 3 can, but you could definitely incorporate the waffle iron cookout with family.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, I don't know how the professional tennis associations feel about people doing waffle irons on the tailgates or tailgating at all.
Yeah, maybe I'll change it to the US Open just so I can like have everything at least in one country.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a very good summer though. I like that. And don't worry about the sappy. I think that was a solid one, and it sounds like it'd be really fun too. I've never done a big road trip like that, and I've always thought that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you have survived through every one of the 10 questions that we do for Director's Cut. You even made it through many of the bonus questions. And I was happy to get to talk to somebody in depth about the Pitt campus because it's one of my favorite campuses in America, which I think is not something that a lot of people say, but I think it's a very cool place. And I really enjoy it every time I visited. So thank you for being with us today. I will remind everybody, if you enjoyed this today, and I hope you did, please click subscribe. Please click get notifications. We will let you know every single time we post a video to the YouTube channel, which is very frequently. So Shirley, again, thanks again. This was really good. Thanks for your great answers. And this was super fun. And we will see everybody next week.
I put it down from the whip to my